here we go. This is something new, kind of fun. Um, what we did yesterday, remember, where we were looking at prime factors, today we're going to look at another way that we can simplify those expressions, and that's using exponents, okay? So what you see here is, you've seen it before, but you've never maybe known what it meant. This is your base number. I always do that. I forget the pen. So you're going to copy these along into your notes. So this is your base. This is your exponent. Okay, and this whole set is called a power. And what this is how you say it. And you would say 2 to the 5th power. Okay? So go ahead and write these things down. And then we're going to talk about some examples about what that looks like. Basically, exponents, another way to talk about exponents is that it is repeated multiplication. Okay? We've seen repeated addition before, which is where you write 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, right? Like this. This would be 2 times 3, right? Is the same as 2 groups. 2 plus 2 plus 2, or 3 plus 3, right? I wrote that backwards, but this would actually be this, not that, sorry, because this is 2 groups of 3, so 3 plus 3 would be 6, okay? That's repeated addition. Now, repeated multiplication is the same concept, but it's going to get bigger faster, right? Because when I multiply, things are growing faster. So let's watch what happens. Up here, I have the words are 3 to the 1st power. The power is going to look like this. It's going to be 3 to the 1st power. That's how I write that. And then the factors, all that means is just 3 times itself. So the answer would be 3. Okay? This one, 3 to the 2nd power. Remember, power is the whole thing. It's the base and the exponent included. So here you want to include your base and your exponent. So the base is 3, the exponent is 2, and I write that like this. Remember I said it was repeated multiplication, so it's going to be 3 times 3. Now, a lot of you think, oh, it's 3 to the 2nd power, 3 times 2. Well, what's 3 times 2? 3 times 2 is 6. This is not that. This is 3 times 3, which is going to be 9. Okay? 3 to the 3rd power is going to look like this. You might also hear it say 3 cubed. Okay? 3 cubed is going to be 3 times 3 times 3. Okay? So, in order to do that, we would say 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 times 3 is 27. So do you see how it's getting bigger faster? I went from 9 to 27 just by adding one more 3. But because I'm multiplying, that's the key. You have to remember that exponent is repeated multiplication. Okay? And then the last example here is going to be 3 to the 4th power. And so 3, that's going to look like 3 times 3 times 3. Well, we know that 3 to the 3rd power is 27, so 3 times 3 is 9, 9 times 3 is 27, and then 27 times 3 is going to be 81. So with exponents, you can get to a larger number faster, okay? And you'll see these will come up a lot in science, you'll use these in algebra, but this is just the beginning. The key here is that you have to remember that it's repeated multiplication. Okay. All right. So what These are the different types of ways that you're going to see problems with exponents, okay? When it says to write an equivalent expression, okay, it just means it doesn't want you to solve it, okay? It just wants you to write it another way. Well, when I see, remember what we told you back here, what is exponents? Exponents is repeated multiplication. So here, if I have 6 times 6 times 6 times 6, how can I write that? I would write my base of 6. How many times does it repeat? 4. So I can write that like this, 6 to the 4th power. Now remember, it didn't ask you to solve it. It just said write an equivalent expression, okay? So the more you read, the less work you have to do, okay? So now let's look at this example. What's our base going to be? Our base is going to be 4. And what's our exponent going to be? The number of times that it repeats, which is 3. And that's how we write that, okay? Ooh, okay. So now let's look down here. Let's look at number 3. Notice I have 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times 3. Now how could I write that as an equivalent expression? Well, I have 2 different bases. So I have 2, and it repeats 3 times. And then I have a base of 3, and it repeats 3 times. So that would be how I could write that equivalent expression. 2 to the 3rd power times 3 to the 3rd power. Okay? Knowing that, let's try number 4. Okay? Now we're going to do all these together, and then in a minute, y'all are going to get to do some partner work at your tables. Okay? So here, if you notice, these are all the same. These are repeating, and then this is like a little add-on. So my base is going to be 5. And what's my exponent going to be? How many times does it repeat? 5 times. So I have 5 to the 5th power times 3, because the 3 doesn't repeat. So that's what that would look like. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Guys, be real careful. If it doesn't say solve, don't take your time to solve, because that's a lot of math that you don't need to do in this instance. Okay? So let's go to the next page, or right down below what's on you. And this one, it says express each power as a product. Now this is a super fancy way for saying solve. Okay? So then you want to determine, it says determine the value. Okay? So actually, I lied. This doesn't mean solve. This means solve. Okay? And this means write it spread out like we had on the last page. Okay? So when I look at this one, this says 5 to the 2nd power. Sorry that it's so small. But that just means repeated multiplication of 5 times 5. And then it wants the answer. Well, what is 5 times 5? 25. Okay? Don't get confused. A lot of people are going to say, oh, that's 5 times 2, because it's 5 to the 2nd power. Guys, that's not what this is. Remember, it's repeated multiplication. This is wrong, and it's 5 2 times, so 5 times 5. This one is 15 3 times. So it's going to be 15 times 15 times 15. Okay, so when you do this, my brain is blanking here for a second. The answer is 3,375. I did 15 times 15, okay, which is 225. And then you do 225 times 15, which gives you 3,375. Okay. Now, that's very different than, say, the most common mistake, which is to say, oh, 15 times 3. Okay. This is not 15 times 3. It's 15 3 times. Okay. And then the last one here, let's go ahead and try that one on your own. I'm going to pause the video And you guys try that one and let's see what you get. Okay? Okay. So when you do this one out, 7 times 7 is 49. 49 times 7 is 343. And then 343 times 7 should be 2,401. So that should be your value of 7 to the 4th power. Okay? All right, so now let's try this one. Now this, we're going to spend a lot of time doing tomorrow, tomorrow being Friday when I'm back. But what this is taking basically what we did yesterday and putting it to use using, it wants you to factor, but it wants you to use the prime factors, okay? So in order to find the prime factors, you have to think about what do I multiply to get there. One way you can do that is using a tree. So I'm just going to show this to you. It might not make sense today, and that's all right. We'll just try it. So when I look at this tree, I'm going to say, well, what two things can I multiply to get 90? And I know that I can do 2 times 45. Okay, and 2 times 45 is going to give me 90. I know that 2 is prime. Okay, and so now I want to try that with 45 because I know I can still multiply here. Well, I know that I can do 5 times 9 is 45. Well, 5 is prime, 9 is not. So I can do 3 times 3. Well, 3 is prime and 3 is prime. So it wants you to factor these using exponents. So I see here that I have 3 times 3 times 5 times 2, which is going to give me 90. Okay. It wanted me to use exponents. And so what that looks like is 3 squared, because here I have 2 3s, times 5 times 2. And actually I did that wrong because the 2 should be first, but we'll worry about that tomorrow. I just want to give you a preview of that. We're not going to do these today, so you can just, don't cross them off, but you can just leave them blank. We'll work those as warm-ups the next day that we come to class. So what's left now is your partner work. There might be a couple examples like this on your partner work. Just give it a shot. Again, this is new, and we're going to spend a lot of time on Friday doing this, so don't panic if you don't understand this right here. This you need to understand. This you need to understand. And hopefully this is making more sense now. Remember, when I'm working with exponents, it's repeated multiplication, not addition, okay? So you're going to now work with your partner to finish those couple of examples. I know Miss Golden is there today, and she has the right to make you work independently if it gets too loud. So please keep your talking to a level 1, which is really a whisper, because there's no need to do more than that. Plus, there's a lot of you guys in there. So she's also at the end of class going to hand out your homework. And if you're good and stay on task, she will hand your homework out early, which will allow you time to work before you leave. If she has to stop and redirect and get you back on track, the homework will not come in time. And then you'll have to take a lot of it home. So you have a couple options: work well and get your homework early, or not. I will see you guys tomorrow. Happy mathing.